Hello everyone, Deadeye here. Let's talk about Planetside 2, huh? One of my favorite games. I haven't been talking about it much lately. I've been kind of waiting for the results of these recent big changes that have happened in the background, and we haven't really seen it. In case you didn't know, there is a new IP owner to the franchise. It's a faceless company nobody knows anything about, and we haven't heard anything or seen anything as a result of that change in ownership of the IP. There's also a new dev team behind the game. We also haven't really seen much besides their promised roadmap. We're still waiting on the results of that. The big update is supposed to be happening sometime in the third quarter of this year, which just started, but we haven't seen any results of that yet. New weapons, new armor, and a new vehicle. This is going to be interesting. But what the new devs did say is that they wanted to address the balances and the pain points of the game. And so today's video, which the background video is just footage I just recorded for this VO. Today's video, I just want to talk about the game and some of the problems it has, and maybe propose some solutions at the same time. So please feel free to leave a comment below. I'll read them and respond to anything that I find interesting. If you have your own thoughts about the problems with the game, feel free to leave comments about that down below as well. I do hope that somebody involved in the game does see what I have to say here today. Anyways. So let's talk about the big overarching problems first. First one I want to bring up is obviously the hacker problem. There is an individual hacker who plays the game almost every day at prime time and ruins the fun for everyone else. Imagine if you're a new player. You're not going to want to put up with this. I'm pretty certain it's one individual who keeps coming back and doing this, because if it was more prevalent, the hack tools that is, we'd have more than one person at a time online doing this, but it's always only one person at a time online doing this, so it's one individual has these hack tools. The anti-cheat software in the game, BattleEye, obviously can't cut it. It's probably something more down in the guts of the game that they have access to. It needs to be addressed, though. Maybe reach out to the other developers that use BattleEye in their games to see if they know anything, but I'm not sure the best way to approach defeating hackers. It's not something I've personally had experience with, but it's something I do know needs to go, because I do think it's the one individual thing that is killing the game the most. The next big problem I think that you can see in the game is the faction balance. If you just play one faction, and they happen to be the red faction, the TR faction, you are on a less than equal footing to the other factions. This isn't propaganda. If you look at the stats, this truth bears out. A TR heavy assault, for example, isn't as good as the other ones. But it's not just that one example. It's the entire range of the TR kit, almost entirely, isn't as good as their counterparts in the other factions. You can look at the stats and see that TR pretty much never excels in any weapon category's stats. If you're coming to play this game for the first time, you're not going to want to play a weaker faction. And if you're a skilled player, you're not going to want to play the weaker faction. So TR is the worst faction, inherently. I think there's something larger at work here that is causing this problem than just bad stat lines to weapons, though I think better stat lines to weapons can improve this. I think it's something fundamental to the design of the faction, though, that needs to be approached. This wasn't always the case, of course, but as the other factions have gotten more powerful, TR hasn't. I've been playing them a lot for the last year. I don't think I've seen TR win a primetime alert that entire time. If you try and bring this up almost anywhere online, people just say, oh, it's bad leaders. It's not that. Players don't want to play on a team not as well equipped. This needs to be addressed. You can't have one of your factions in a multi-faction game be noticeably worse than the others. And then the third big thing that probably needs to be fixed is class balancing. Finally, after years and years, they nerf the heavy significantly. Yet they're still used so much. I'm happy they nerfed the heavy, but the heavy's weapon, the LMG, still the best gun in the game, and probably still needs attention. When I'm talking about class balances, I'm trying to look at an overall effect to the game, because the game is mostly heavies, light assaults, and infills. The only people playing NGs are vehicle users. Pretty much no one plays medic, because why would you? The problem isn't just giving medics more abilities and something to do. The problem is all the other classes can heal themselves, so why play medic? The first thing I would suggest is removing restoration kits off of light assaults and heavies. Remove them. No more restoration kits for those two classes. This gives a greater reason for medics to exist and nerfs those two problematic classes. At the same time, with medics, try and improve the assault rifles. And then give those assault rifles to heavy assaults as well. Heavy assaults shouldn't have access to scout rifles. It doesn't make sense for the class. The class is supposed to be, the front line infantry fighting class. Scout rifles don't make sense in that hands. And they're so powerful, they should be taken off of the most used class. But at the same time, make assault rifles better. Are heavies going to choose assault rifles over LMGs as they are? No. Make LMGs worse, specifically at range. The next class I want to talk about is the Infiltrator and its cloaking ability, which needs to be massively reined in. Allowing cloaking along with one-shot kill weapons seems to be a crazy idea when the netcode is so poor. It basically can have no counter to it as it is. These two things need to be separated. At the same time, I think cloaking should have counters to it as well. I propose adding dark light to current deployables or creating its own dark light deployable. But the caltrops, the grenade dampener, and the shield, maybe add dark light capabilities to all of those things. So when an infiltrator comes within a certain range of those deployables, they can be seen. I think this is a simple solution to one of the biggest problems in the game. The cloaked infiltrator has such power that as an individual it feels like you can't do anything to stop them from killing you. And it's ruining the fun for some new players, and they just won't play the game because of it. So you need to either add greater counters to it or massively rein in the cloaking ability as it is created in the game. The next class I want to talk about is the Light Assault. It has problems, but they're hard to pinpoint as a problem with the class because it's more in the way they are implemented in the game itself. And what I'm trying to say is I feel far too many bases are friendly to the Light Assault in disrupting the way those bases can be defended. One of the ways I think to counter this is actually not associated with the Light Assault directly, but it's in nerfing the spawn beacon. I think 1 or 2 nerfs to the spawn beacon are appropriate in these contexts. Force the spawn beacon to have its timer effect over the entire squad instead of the individual. You can decrease the amount of time it takes to spawn a new beacon, but the overall timer should affect the entire squad. And likely at the same time, I think a squad shouldn't have access to the spawn beacon at least until maybe it's 4 or more members or 6 or more members, some number like that. At the same time, we're talking about base defending. Darts from the infiltrator are very powerful, and I think they need to be a bit easier to destroy. Making their hitbox larger seems the easiest solution with that, and making them generally weaker overall to damage. Perhaps a war asset that can clear darts is also a way to go there. So along that train of thought, I think bases should be easier to defend. The problem is there's so many bases. How can you do that without going through each one and making modifications? So I think the kill field for enemies around a spawn room needs to be larger. Enemy players are able to get far too close to those spawn rooms. Then there needs to be an approach to changing the spawn room. I've had a couple of ideas over the years. One of them is actually to make the windows opaque so that players in the spawn room can't shoot out. They actually have to go out of the spawn room to fight. The other idea is simply to make the windows in those spawn rooms larger so they can be more effective in fighting through those windows. But there are many, many bases where it's just far too annoying to try and fight in. Either they be bombarded by vehicles or enemy players have so many angles to attack players running out of spawn rooms. And I have one more thing to talk about before this video is over, and that's Osher. I know Osher's not very popular. I actually kind of like it, but that's just to me. I understand I'm in a minority here on that one. That's fine. But I think actually adding Osher back into the rotation. Now I know, before you leave a comment, listen to this. Add it back to the rotation, and when Osher unlocks, when it's the only continent, also unlock Cold Tier or Desolation. In the case of Desolation, a lot of players have never even been on that continent. At the same time, I would love to play Nexus, but I understand that Nexus is a two-faction continent. I've never played Nexus or Desolation, and I think I've only played Coltier once. And I enjoyed it a lot that time I played it because it was massive close-quarters battles. So my suggestion is when Osher is on, open up one of those other continents that people don't see that much. Adding more content probably isn't bad to this game. That's my suggestion on Osher. Alright. So yeah, those are just some of the ideas I've had. I don't have a big conclusion to this video. I would like to see some feedback from other players about what they think needs to be changed in this game, so please leave a comment down below. This game's pop is dying. It's hard to recommend to new players, especially with such obvious pain points. The fixes need to happen sooner than later. If you have any of your own ideas about how to fix this game or what its problems are, please leave a comment below. I'm Deadeye, that's all I've got to say for today. Hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all soon. Alright. Bye-bye now.